fact, if you really look at 10-15 years back, HR to that extent was not a burning issue. As sectors evolved, first IT, ITS, and then now many more sectors have grown, all of them need talent. So given there is a supply which is pretty robust, but the demand is bigger, and demand is demanding some more depth in the talent. So that's one part of the problem. So how do you, especially in Indian context, select right few candidates from a large pool of candidates who apply to you? So that's one part of the problem. The other part is, how do you quickly, rapidly scale up the talent? Most businesses in India are growing at a way faster pace than traditionally it has done in the global management practice and the context. So typically, before you mature from an age perspective, your business has grown to a large size. So how do you mature an individual, which typically was done over say 15 years in a global context? Maybe in Indian context is needed in 5 years, because that's the pace at which businesses are growing, and a lot of challenge around, hence around manager capability, leadership capability development, and so on. And what all this is connecting to is that HR function quickly, from a very basic function 10 to 15 years back, needs to be really ahead of the curve today. So CEOs have suddenly started demanding not only 1-2 things, variety of things from HR. And most companies you go to and talk about, they will say, oh yeah, I have a specialized model of HR where there are HR business partners, there are center of excellences, there is an HR ops center or HR administration. But when you probe more, they will say all these roles are actually performing a notch below the level they should be. So HR business partner, instead of being advising, is actually taking orders, because they are unable to do that. Why it's happening? Just look at the complexity. You have a 30-35-year-old, maybe let's look at an IT example, handling a business which is $500 million, and he has a business partner in HR who is maybe 32-year-old and supporting him. And hence there is a even more sharper need in HR to develop internal capability and to use tools to supplement it. And when I say tools, need not be very complex technology, but tools which will help them judge what are the right questions which needs to be addressed in front of a business leader. What are the right questions they need to address in front of employees or to employees? What are the right questions they need to address for HR colleagues? And really have right data sets to have a fact-based discussion. And that's a real challenge of HR. HR typically has tended to duck the discussion basis facts. We have done a lot of discussions which are generic and loose in nature, while really the science tells us, and the kind of data which HR has, HR should be doing many more fact-based decisions. We are seeing that happening in recruitment. Soon we will see that happening across the HR value chain. There are two parts to it. One is the part around tools which will enable that. There are tools in the marketplace which can, so you need to be smart about selecting it, select it on functionality, ease of use, then about the whole complexity of building. So how do you take data out of IT into the hands of HR? So that's one part of the problem. But the bigger part of the problem is the behavior of HR. So how do HR individuals change the whole style of interaction to a fact-based storytelling? So what's my story to my business leader? What's my story to my HR leader? What are the facts supporting it? Basis those facts and that story, what are the hypotheses I'm building? If there are questions, counter questions, do we have more supporting data around it? If I don't have it, do I go back, research, look for that data, build new set of insights, come back, say every month or after 3 months, depending on the kind of question you are talking of. Something can be addressed in a month, something will take 3 months, something will take a year. Come back and do that cycle. So that's how you will continue to improve. And I've seen clients that do that. A lot of global companies are now doing that. What it happens, your conversation with business leader becomes very similar to what he does with his CFO, he does with other peers, because that is fact driven. It starts addressing his needs and you are constantly aligned with him. Once you do that, actually CEOs really today, most CEOs in India will want to get into the HR conversation, because a lot of them realize, in fact, all of them realize that HR is critical to success. If you go and talk to a CEO, they will say, I'm very clear what I need from HR. I need a continuous supply of high caliber talent. I need great performance from them. So talent supply, not only at a junior level but also at a senior level, the capability growth. I need them to really manage the performance piece well, and not the performance process but the culture of performance, and these two things are different. And give me, and the whole story around engagement, culture, including things like CSR, all of that builds together a value system of the organization and give me insights. So if I am getting into a merger, come back, tell me from a culture, from human capital perspective, it will work, it will not work, because a lot of those events, while finance cases in the beginning, the real story comes later on with integration, which is all HR. But very few HR individuals are doing these conversations with that CEO. I am not saying they are not those individuals. There are some of them in India. Some of them are so good that they will be best among the best in the world. But it's not pervasive enough across the spectrum to say that all of them are doing that in India. So that's really the challenge. So it's an interesting one. I have devoted 8-10 years, lot of time of my life, consulting life, 2-3 years working with bodies in India, internationally with World Bank, to really define how do you build skills and capability for employment. How do you drive up the employability? And it's a burning issue for us given our demographic dividend. Either you do that or actually you push a lot of youth the wrong way. And that's where I think a lot of our government system today is incentivized to drive up the volume and numbers, and no one is questioning the quality. All the research and the annual review reports, you say we are getting those numbers of X percentage of individuals in those grades, but the skill levels are every year falling down. That's a problem which needs to be addressed at a school level. While government is doing a lot of work around skill building, vocational training and all that, but look at it this way, fundamental to life success is basically 2 skills. You have the language skills, whichever language. So it's a myth that you are not taught English and so on. The reality is, if you are great in one language, in communicating and kind of expressing yourself, you can quickly pick up that skill and learn a new language. Learning a new language is the easiest thing. It takes around 6 to 8 months. The other big piece is the whole cognitive ability, whether it's mathematical piece, it's logical reasoning and so on, that stops developing after teenage. And all science says that after that it will not get developed. And hence, if we don't get our schooling right, I don't think long run you can do with all the money we will invest, we will still not do a justice to that talent. So while it's good to do something at college level, post-college, post-12th class, and in short term I think that's needed and that we should continue to do, but government need to quickly get our schools fundamentally in order. If that's not happening, I don't think we are creating a future for students studying in large numbers in government schools across the country.